everyone, it's Maki here. In the second half of which from MERCURY, the main mobile suit Gundam Ariel is upgraded and modified. Today, I'm going to introduce the Gundam Ariel review to you. Oh! Did you have the opportunity to watch my previous program, in which I explained the original Ariel? Today's program builds on that. The Gundam Ariel has a very different appearance to the LED Gundams in previous Gundam series. The rebuilt version has a much stronger impression of the familiar Gundam type design that fans know well. As it turns out, this design change was intentional. JNT Head, who was responsible for the mechanical design, had this to say in Mechanic and World. Before the upgrade, Ariel was designed to be an unconventional mobile suit from MERCURY. The rebuilt version was created with the idea that its identity as a Gundam had been revealed and accepted. That's why I brought it closer to a traditional Gundam design. So what characteristics does the Gundam Ariel rebuild have? Let's unknow it together. If you'd like, please consider supporting my channel by joining the 99-cent monthly membership. As a thank you, you'll receive a name badge and comment stamps. Now then, let's begin the analysis. The Gundam Ariel was severely damaged during its duel with a Grassley House student. Its left thumb and leg were completely destroyed, rendering it unable to function as a mobile suit. Not only did repairing it require advanced technology and facilities, it also required a tremendous amount of money. At that point, it became impossible for the Earth House students to restore Ariel alone. However, Shinsei offered to help with the repairs. As was explained in an earlier program, Ariel was originally designed and manufactured by Shinsei. Consequently, Shinsei carried out Ariel's repairs at Plant Quater. Plant Quater is a massive development facility owned by the Benite Group. It is capable of handling every stage of the process, from technology research and development to manufacturing, sales and distribution. Shinsei is a Benite Group company, but it has an extremely low sales performance. Out of the group's 157 affiliated companies, Shinsei ranks 150 worst. So why was a company like that permitted to use such an advanced facility, which could practically be considered the group's center? Surprisingly, there are no clear explanations as to why permission to use Plant Quater was granted. However, those who watch the story through to the end will probably find the reason easy to guess. Delling Rembrandt, the Benite Group's highest authority, had secretly designed and built Quiet Zero in collaboration with Prospera. Gundam Ariel itself was also a key component responsible for the core functions of Quiet Zero. For Delling, using top-tier facilities to modify Gundam Ariel, something of immense importance to him, would have been an extremely rational decision. Nevertheless, many people probably wondered why didn't he help sooner. No material provides a clear answer to that question. Judging by the timing of Shinsei's cooperation, which began immediately after Ariel reached Permit Score 6 during the duel with Grassley House, it seems that Delling had doubts about its effectiveness beforehand, but acknowledged its value once it had achieved Permit Score 6. Of course, this is just my personal interpretation. Another question remains, though. How did they explain to the other group companies that a corporation making such a small contribution was being granted access to state-of-the-art facilities? Quiet Zero was naturally a top-secret project, so this could not be used as an official explanation. This is another aspect open to each viewer's interpretation. Now, let's take a look at the improvements made to Ariel rebuild. Surprisingly, its fundamental structure has been restored while maintaining the original framework. This was achieved by changing the external armor and various pieces of equipment. This suggests that the underlying design was already of an extremely high standard. One notable addition is the flight unit on its back. There are no materials that explain why the flight unit was added. Was it officially developed because the operational data from the flight unit created by the era's house students proved highly effective? Or was a flight unit for Ariel already under development, and did the era's house students simply create a similar system by coincidence? This point is open to viewers' interpretation. The wings of the flight unit are movable, which improves its turning ability while in flight. Interestingly, the description for the flight unit specifically uses the word flight. It does not say mobility or maneuverability, it says flight. In other words, its combat capabilities in environments with gravity were specifically enhanced. Once again, there is no direct explanation for this. However, an important scene in episode 19 may provide some clues. In the story, Prospera pilots the Ariel rebuilt and attacks a secret hangar belonging to the Access Corporation, destroying it. This facility is located on Earth. Prospera destroys the hidden Gundam Lubris units stored there. Access was supposedly wiped out 21 years earlier. However, it had actually survived with support from the Space Assembly League. Access had secretly resumed producing Gundams to provide gun technology for military use. Access was the organization responsible for the destruction of Vanetes and rejected its ideals. To Prospera, it was also responsible for the deaths of her beloved family members. On top of that, Access had survived thanks to support from the Assembly League, the same organization tied to her family's enemies. To her, this was an enemy that could never be forgiven. For the Quiet Zero plan to succeed, Gundam Lubris, a mobile suit comparable to Ariel itself, also had to be eliminated. In the story, Lubris is destroyed before it can activate. But what if Lubris had actually been activated? The modified versions, Lubrisal and Lubristorm, have actually engaged in combat with Ariel. It's necessary to anticipate the possibility of encountering and engaging in combat with a Gundam of the same type. The combat ability of Gundam Lubris, the machine on which Ariel was originally based, was never low. If combat with Lubris was even a possibility, then maximizing combat performance in gravity environments would probably be a necessary upgrade. This flight unit was one of the key systems needed to fulfill Prospera's revenge and complete the Quiet Zero plan. The Ariel can also use its override ability against systems that usually palm it. It can seize control of enemy gambits. Furthermore, if a mobile suit uses palm technology, it can take control of piloted machines too. As long as palm technology is involved, Ariel can dominate systems beyond mobile suits. This ability can be performed over a much wider area when operating with a manned gun node units. According to Delling and Prospera's plan, their ultimate goal was to gain control over palmate-based devices across the entire Earth sphere. The upgraded Gundam Ariel was created to avenge Prospera and establish a new world order. Within the story, Ariel rebuild reaches palmate score 8. In this state, the shell unit grows white. It becomes capable of operating without seal to its pilot being inside the cockpit. As is later revealed in the story, it is actually being controlled by a Rikuto Samayo in the state. Prospero created Quiet Zero and Gundam Ariel to bring a Rikuto back from the dead. Gundam Ariel rebuilt self as Aori's restored body. Now, let's take a look at the weapons used by the Ariel rebuild. Its weapon configuration is almost identical to that of the original Ariel. The first is the head beam Balkan. There are no specific descriptions stating that this weapon has been enhanced. Next is the beam saber. Again, there are no descriptions stating that this weapon received any upgrades. That is the beam rifle. This weapon has undergone major enhancements. It is larger than the previous beam rifle. However, the function that enabled it to generate a beam blade from the muzzle has been removed. No materials explain why this change was made. Was the design philosophy that ranged weaponry alone could secure victory? It can also transform into long-range mode. While the original Ariel improved its sniping accuracy by attaching gambits to the muzzle, the Ariel rebuild can achieve the same result using the beam rifle alone. It also has the ability to connect gambits. When gambits are attached, it transforms into a form known as the gambit rifle. In this configuration, it can fire extremely powerful beam attacks. Even when fired using the green-colored non-combat specification beam settings, it demonstrates overwhelming destructive power. The beams are powerful enough to melt and completely erase the legs of mobile suits designed for combat. Equipping the gambit rifle gives Ariel anti-ship attack capabilities. A small detail is that when transforming into the gambit rifle configuration, the sensor unit attached to the beam rifle is removed. Apparently, the gambits themselves possess sensor capabilities equivalent to those of the removed sensor unit. As with the previous beam rifle, this one also has thrusters, allowing it to fly independently. Scenes on Earth demonstrate these thrusters in operation. Apparently, they can generate enough thrust to enable flight in a gravity environment. Finally, we have the gambits. As mentioned in previous programs, when all 11 gambits are treated as a single system, they are referred to as the escutcheon. Each gambit has a slightly different appearance compared to earlier versions. They can generate an override field independently when separated from Ariel. This gives the pilot complete control over enemy weapon behavior, forcing them to operate according to commands. The gambits possess extremely high mobility. During the climax of the story, there is even a scene in which they engage Gundam CALIBARN in an evenly matched dogfight. However, there is actually one more weapon belonging to Ariel rebuild. That weapon is the Quiet Zero. In the official setting collection Mechanic and World, there are comments from Mr. Seiichi Shiroto, who was responsible for setting research. He stated that the Quiet Zero was designed to be the largest bit weapon in the history of the Gundam series. Many viewers probably left the story with the impression that Gundam Ariel was integrated into Quiet Zero as its core. However, the reality is actually the opposite. Gundam Ariel itself is the main body, while Quiet Zero functions as the bit weapon. Prospero's goal was to create a world for a Rikuto. From this perspective, the idea that Ariel and a Rikuto are the true central figures is a perfectly reasonable interpretation. Many fans are probably curious about the size of the performance gap between the Gundam Ariel and the Gundam CALIBARN. Those CALIBARN which boasts tremendous compatibility at the expense of its pilot's life, actually surpassed Ariel in terms of pure combat performance. Previous examples from the Gundam series suggest that the situation is similar to that of Wing Gundam Zero, which was portrayed as being far superior to later Gundam models. However, Mr. Hiroshi Kobayashi denied this assumption in comments published in Mechanical World. He is the director of it from Mercury and the person overseeing the entire project. It was revealed that Ariel is actually more powerful than CALIBARN. Ariel was upgraded using the latest technology, resulting in increased performance. Meanwhile, although CALIBARN was originally high performance, it had simply remained in storage for 21 years. Consequently, Ariel ultimately surpasses it in performance. The idea of the protagonist riding an older Gundam and fighting an enemy with superior performance during the climax is similar to the situation involving Strike Freedom in Seed Freedom. The direction of Seed Freedom was reportedly also decided based on the idea that the story would be more compelling if the protagonist won, while piloting an older mobile suit instead of a brand new, high-performance one. These kinds of similarities are purely coincidental, but discovering them is part of the fun. That concludes today's research. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you again in the next program.